Live, 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 live.
All right.
All right, all right, all right, all right.
Is all right. Let's go this round real quick.
Subscribe.
Share. Copy. I will do it from my phone so I don't lose you. That's the way I need to do it. The way I need to do it. Know what I'm saying? That's how I need to do it.
All right. Wait. Okay. You're saying lose me. Are you doing a like screen capture?
Uh-huh.
So if you want to cheat for future reference, if you pop out the video,
Uh-huh.
uh, and
Uh-huh.
then do a window capture, it
Right.
will. I know some of these words. But yeah, if you do like the video pop out, and then you do a window capture, it will just capture that whole window, and then you can crop down to just me. It will stay up even if you change what you're looking at.
All right. It is shared to the Discord. Moderation helps everyone feel safe. Noted. We'll do our best there. I've catching up. Sweet. All right. So we're
Moderation.
shared. Um, we are up and running. Still feeling sick for almost 4 or 5 weeks. So, talked with my doc. Just kind of the season and how things are going. Upper respiratory infections are awful and they can linger. Whether that's
Tis the season.
cold flu could potentially be even a level of COVID, but tested negative the last time I tested. Probably should get it again. But on the mend. Everybody hydrate, drink water. As Zach, his water is Monster, so
Water. There's water in Monster.
there is. But yeah, we don't have a whole lot to talk about. Don't really have a deck to feature. We can just kind of talk a little bit about the decks that we're playing and maybe some of the techs that we have as a introduction, and you can talk a little bit about your experience of playing in person for the first time, and
Yeah.
um, I'll go into my result as well after that. But take her away, Zach. How is playing in person, and
Yeah,
how does the kitchen sink feel?
played in person for the first time. Was this Saturday? What are we on today? Wednesday. So this past Saturday, uh, Eric dragged me out of the house, made me put real pants on. It was
Get it?
terrible. Actually, it was
So you're
fantastic.
wearing the
I
pants in the relationship. Good for you.
I am definitely wearing. I'm wearing the pants only on days I have to leave the house. But no, I had an absolute blast. It was super fun. The community that's over at the local game store is awesome. Hold on one second. That's better. Um, yeah, the community there was super awesome, super fun. The like minuscule amount of concern I had about figuring some of the stuff out in physical cards versus the Pokemon TCG Live, which takes care of everything for you, was
Does a lot of it does coddle you a little bit, but it's
it,
it's
it
the it's the
does
right it's the right way of giving you the tools to understand. It's just like you just need to know
100%.
that there is a step up when you go to paper. You can't just expect things to shuffle themselves and do the things that they're going to do, you know?
Yeah, and that was I'll say fine, easier than expected. Like it worked out just fine, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know like a better way to word that. It was great.
Cool.
Um, it worked out great. It was, just all around just like worked out fantastic.
Nice.
Still don't know if I figured out exactly the draw mulligan, draw for mulligans, prizes, draw
So
situation
it's
perfectly.
draw 7, put a basic, prizes, and then draw any mulligans that your opponent had to make. and then you have the opportunity to play more
So it's
basics after you draw the mulligans. Hey, Dad.
it's draw mulligans until basics.
Well, yeah, you mulligan until basics.
Yeah, that's what. So
Yeah,
draw,
yeah.
do your mulligans, play your basics, then do prizes, then draw for any mulligans that had happened.
Yes.
Got you. I'll
Yes.
figure that out eventually.
Eventually. Yeah. So you got that. That's just that's like, I mean, that's the simple things. But then it's like understanding to count your energies, understanding to count, like, to track your prizes, and especially in a deck like you're playing with the soup, the sink, the whatever, the Tord Reklev, Lost Zone, our Lost Box, Super Duper Toolbox deck. You need to be aware of those numbers kind of often, and I think
100%.
I do think that is also a line of understanding any Lost Zone style deck is you are literally getting rid of cards you cannot get back.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you're faced with the decision early in the game that will decide if you win or lose, and you won't know it until you look back at the game. And that's just hard. And I think that comes with repetition, that comes with all right, we'll hold on, Dad. Wait for Dad. I'm just kidding. No, but it runs in that way of you just you have to be okay with making mistakes and learning with the deck, and
Yeah.
understanding. And I think what the Tord version has is that you have more lines to win games, where in some of the other ones, like, you make one wrong decision, you're like, well, I pitched the Radiant Charizard or a Cramorant or something like that, and now I will always be one prize short. Where
Yeah.
this version, it's like, all right, cool. I may just need to use Palkia V-Star to take a KO instead of an Iron Hands or something like that, because I have to pitch this Iron Hands in this situation. That allows me to take the Palkia V-Star, takes the KO, and then sets up the Kyogre, or things like that. Like, you start to see those lines a little bit more because it is attacking from so many more angles. So, yeah, very cool to see. And I do think one thing Zach got to experience that I got to experience in my first event as well was sometimes you just draw terribly, and
Sometimes you just brick.
that is a huge part of this game, and it does suck when it happens, but it is just a part of it. That is Pokemon, and that is just trading card games in general.
I was gonna say that's just TCGs as a whole. I feel like that's the key thing to remember is, like, it's still RNG. There's always going to be an aspect of RNG. Don't mind me as I just, like, walk off and talk. But there's an aspect of RNG that just is always going to be persistent in any TCG that you can't escape. Like, it's gonna happen. It doesn't matter if you're playing Magic the Gathering getting mana flooded or mana starved, or if it's Pokemon and you're not drawing, the 4 bosses orders you have in your deck, or whatever relevant item it is that you are looking for, card out of your deck list. There's only so much you can mitigate, short of playing Magic the Gathering's Relentless Rats deck and just playing all Relentless Rats.
Yeah.
Like, if the most of a card you can have is 4, unless it's energy,
Stated otherwise, yeah,
then your odds are always 4 out of 60, and only getting slightly better with each card that you get. So
yeah,
there's only so much you can do about it.
For sure. And that's, I think, a part of the game that a lot of us will express our frustrations with, because there are times like I look at I played a mute player recently online, and they played two bosses orders. They did use Pal Pad, but they got to use three bosses orders, but they shut down themselves by playing Path to the Peak, so they still had a healthy deck size. And usually a Mew player with Genesect and really burns through the deck, but they had a healthy
Hmm.
deck size. But they found the boss early. They Pal Padded one back in, and then found two more bosses to win the game against me. And I had a very slow start, and I still kept myself in the game. But they just had it. They just got there, and they did not hit cram. They did not hit any of these things that allow them to search out. So at that point, like, do I am I do I feel am I frustrated by that a little bit, but at the same time, hats off to them for having it and seeing it, and I put myself in a place to win the game on the very next turn. They just had it that turn, and I didn't get my next turn, and that's just
Hmm.
kind of like trying to not be frustrated in that moment and still trying to find all the ways to put myself in positions to win, playing my outs, giving myself a chance to win on the next turn, and again, asking my opponent to have it. If they have it, shake their hand, give them the thumbs up, and move on to the next one, knowing that I navigated my lines the best I could. And I think that's something I have to remember, especially when I'm grinding on the ladder, because sometimes when it's in person, it's a lot easier to be you get to see the person and you get to be like, yeah, good for you, dude. That's awesome. Or person, good for you. That's great.
Yeah.
But on the game, when you feel slighted by the Pokemon trading card game live, shuffling your deck terribly and you drawing the the one card, the one of the non-outs that you had, and you're just like, this is so dumb. Like, yeah, that could also happen with a in card shuffle too, but it just feels like when it's out of your control and it's an automated system that's screwing you over, it hurts a little bit more for whatever reason. So, yeah, just again, trying to hats off to your opponents. Trust that everybody's out here getting better, and sometimes they're gonna have it, but there's going to be plenty of times where you have it, and that's a big win. So yeah, but I did pilot Garchomp to a win, which was kind of cool. First win.
Yeah.
It was a smaller showing. There was a League Cup that was also happening not far away that kind of got slammed on it, but we had a great showing. I had a bye in the first round, beat a newer player in the second round, and then beat the other undefeated deck, which was Palkia Iron Valiant. And they had a slow start. I capitalized on that slow start and kind of took took the game and got a win, got some good CP, and was cool. Got some prize packs and everything. So it was cool to have Garchomp win as a deck that I have been putting so much time into lately.
Hmm.
Um, and just to talk about the main tech that I have focused on, if you go check out the Garchomp EX video that I just posted, that is actually a does not include the new tech card, which I will be doing a slightly updated short here, maybe today or tomorrow. That will talk about it, but it was X. I think the card um, being a additional draw engine, being a versatile attacker that can easily be loaded up with a Hydrolander attack, and it having free retreat allows it to pivot and function
Pivot.
as a pivot as a
Pivot.
really, really, really versatile card that can be played and doesn't always have to be played, but also can be a very looming threat. I think I have seen many situations where I've been able to boss up or counter catcher up a Greninja and then have that ability be used and cripple my opponents in that way.
Hmm.
So a Mew EX from 151 has been a wonderful inclusion that I think I know don't love the extra two prizer, but it does help in so many matchups. And in those matchups, I'm starting to recognize just how been just a fun card to play. So big fan. Also, Mew's probably one of the coolest Pokemon if we have to like get down to it. It's just like it's hard to not like Mew as a card. Mewtwo I think probably gets more hype, but uh Mew is actually
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Hard to say no to that.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh so we do have a League Cup, which will be best of 3 this weekend on Saturday. So I think Zach and I are both really looking forward to that. Allows for some of the nuances of best of ones to just not happen, where you don't get wrecked. It and you just don't. Yeah, so we're actually going to be able to play games to where if you do brick, you have a chance to get back into the game because losing the first, losing the first game doesn't mean you're out of it. You
Mm-mm.
have games 2 and 3 if you can finish them in time to play the game, and if you're often in best of threes, the better player comes out on top. So if you navigate well, make proper decisions, you'll get there. And if your opponent is better, good for them. That's the other part of it. So
Yeah.
that is a going to be a fun part about best of threes.
Speaking
That
of,
that it's I'm not playing the Mute deck. I just playing the Mute EX from 151. That is the 180 HP with so not Mu V or Mu V Max, but the Mu V Max deck is very very strong and going to be prevalent until it leaves in early 2024. You were saying, Zach?
I might have to bother you for said Saturday event.
Yeah.
Steph's got Quilt Guild stuff on
Oh,
Saturday as
that's no
well.
problem. I don't mind
So
coming to swoop. Good.
I
That'll be
just thought I'd let you know. I'm like, oh no, I do want to play, and then Steph is like, I forget what it is that's on Saturday, but it's like big quilty thing, not
cool.
just like regular quilty thing.
Yeah.
And when she's president now, she apparently has to go. She can't miss going to Quilt Guild.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. It'll be really good. And plus, I
Oh
think
yeah,
this will be a
I
bigger
have
show, a turnout where it'll be probably. I think my guess is probably pushing closer to like 21. So we'll have a nice.
nice.
It'll be more
I
rounds.
just
It'll be a lot more fun.
have to continue to, I don't say give Steph a hard time. It's not quite what I mean,
Yeah.
but at least rib her a little bit that my 30-something-year-old wife is the president of the Quilt Guild. I'm
Yeah.
like,
Right.
isn't that something usually you wait till you're about like twice that age
Yeah, for
before
sure.
before most people become president, let alone
Dude,
join a Quilt Guild a lot of the time.
low key, Steph's quilted postcard thing that she posted,
Oh yeah,
unbelievably cool. So that
I
was very fun.
I thought that was so cool. She walked in and put it on the desk, and I forget if I was playing Rocket League or Pokemon or whatever, but I was in the middle of something,
Yeah.
so it took me a second, and the lights in here were still blue, so I couldn't quite see what she had put down.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, that's really cool. Like, where'd you get that?" And she's like, "I made this." And I was like, "Wait a minute!" And I turned the lights on, and I was like, "What is this? This is so cool."
Wild. It's wild. I
It was
love I
it came
love
out
seeing
really
that kind
cool.
of creativity come together, which is so sweet. So hats
I just
off to
gotta get her to
Steph.
make us some Pokemon stuff, you know?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Getting that Etsy grind and everything would be really cool. Well, cool. I guess we can I think that kind of yeah, we didn't really have a deck to talk about much today, but
I mean, we could just pick one.
nah, let's get into this topic because I think there's a lot to what we wanted to discuss as because we'll be talking about decks as we go through this and we can kind of you know you can navigate through how all that works. But
Hmm.
so I'll let you kind of read the prompt because you had a great you had it written down.
And then I deleted the channel.
Perfect. But essentially, right, you go for it. Go for it.
Does Pokemon need to grow up? Uh, does Pokemon need to grow up and change to reflect its more competitive player base and support that competitive aspect of the game and not coddle the newer, younger, easier side of the game? Or does it need to stay where it's at, or even lean more heavily into that aspect of the game so that we can continue to support and bring on the younger portion of the new player base and new generation of people who will play the TCG.
So currently, seeing that Pokemon has 3 divisions in juniors, seniors, and masters, I think they've done a very good job of offering divisions, and that they're somewhat forced divisions. So it's not like
Mm-hmm.
in like a sport like disc golf that we're accustomed to where you can be 14 years old and play in the professional division. You
Yeah.
are locked into juniors or seniors by your age. I'm not sure the age for juniors, and I know that I think it's 18 for seniors. It might be 17 or 18, to where
Okay.
that's where you have to stay in seniors, and then once you're older than that, you are into the Masters division, and you can't move up past that, which I think is a great place to allow you to be in a place where things feel safe and comfortable for the next generation of players to uh, learn the game and also learn from people that are a similar age, and that's great. Hi.
Hi.
I got a wild Tina has appeared.
A wild Tina.
So that allows for people to feel safe, people to learn from people, and it makes things more attainable for the younger audience, where they see a person who's of similar age learning and playing the game and understanding that they can do it. Uh, so they've done a very good job of that, and also Pokemon has been and will continue to be a game that is for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
As we can definitely see in the current status of things, of the generation that grew up with Pokemon when we were young, there was adults who got into Pokemon then who would probably still love it, but they're, much older now, but the as us as kids still love Pokemon 20 years later. We're still so into it 20 plus years later,
Mm-hmm.
that we're still so into it, and it's still something that has it can excite us and be a part of it. So that's
I,
a
I'm
really
just getting
strong
excited about it now, which is 25, 28 years later, whatever it is.
yeah.
Like,
it's
it's great.
it's a beautiful thing to see that it is covering decades and has the ability to continue to do that. So I think Pokemon has adequately grown up into exactly what it needs to be. And I think that they've done a very good job of finding ways to make the game still incredibly competitive, but accessible to all ages and to the next generation. They're
Mm-hmm.
doing things like that. So yeah. What's your thoughts? I mean, we might feel the same, but let's also challenge each
Uh,
other in the other way too.
yeah. It's tough. I mean, I think it's really dependent on what Pokemon's like what their goal is with the TCG, I guess. Like, clearly, I think that they've put more effort into the TCG in the last, let's say, year, as they've upgraded um from what was it, PTCG-O to PTCG-L, Pokemon Trading Card Game Online, to Pokemon Trading Card Live. I think that that's an aspect of that has to be that they're putting more effort into the TCG as a whole. They're trying to grow it. They're trying to get more people into it. And like anything, I feel like it's hard to say that if you're trying to grow that aspect, that TCG aspect, if you're also trying to create a tour or a like a professional level of play, those things kind of go in contrast to each other pretty often. Where competitive play at the highest level promotes a certain I don't know what you want to call it. What's the word I'm looking for here? Like mindset, activity, like way of going about playing the game because you're just trying to win. That's
Yeah.
it. That ends up with decks like Snorlax. That I don't think it's a problem, but in the spirit of Pokemon as the game and from viewership and trying to get people into the game, it's not helpful. And it's not really in line with like the Pokemon thought process, but it is directly in line with the TCG thought process
Yeah.
and like playing a TCG to its maximum potential.
Yeah.
So it's like a weird conflicting subset of like, do you aim for high level play or do you aim for like high level play, but like it's Pokemon and we're our goal is for it to be Pokemon first.
Yeah.
And like the TCG as a whole on the competitive level at the top tier suffers air quotes a bit for it.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I do think there's a strong, line that I feel like they've been towing for a very long time of making certain archetypes in the TCG easy to understand. So when a new player, doesn't have matter the age, can start to understand how the game plays. Where
Hmm.
uh, that's something that of the topic of Snorlax has come up of, does that help people understand the game? No. But it is something that players should understand,
And my
and
camera just shut off.
nice, that players should understand and grasp, and they need to be aware of. So in that concept, as I think we talked about this right before we started um, filming, is
Hmm.
what happens to Snorlax when the meta understands and there is text for it and people build their decks to not just auto lose to Snorlax. Snorlax falls off and
Yeah.
does not dominate. That is just simply how it goes. So, but it popping up here and there allows the new player to understand that Doll and Control is an archetype that they have to be aware of and they need to learn how to play against. They need to learn how to play against turbo decks. They need to learn how to play in the tempo-y, like lost zone control, like tempo to control decks that also have win conditions. They need to learn what Kyogre can do. They need to understand when they need to tech in Manaphy or Jirachi or certain stadiums. They need to understand these things. And something that to continue with that is that you don't just get 60 cards and then you're playing Pokemon and then that's your deck and that's all your deck ever does. You're probably getting
Yeah.
closer to 75 cards. What I have up on here is I have this tech option of all of these different cards that I should be considering as options to put into my deck for many different situations. And obviously that might change the 60 dramatically, but these
Yeah.
are all cards that could go in depending on where the meta goes. Like Iron Valiant falls off, then Cleffa maybe becomes really strong because it can draw 7 cards, but Iron Valiant in the format is just such an easy free prize for them. It's 2 switches and the thing is toast. But like also Minior against Snorlax. This is a card to just slot into your deck if you cannot beat Snorlax. This gives you better odds to win that matchup. So
Hmm.
essentially, you you look into ways of building your deck and having a bunch of options, and you go through this trial and error, and that's the best part of learning a new game and something being challenging. Because if Pokemon in general was this game that was easy to win and it didn't have a lot of back and forth, then nobody would play it. And I think
Agreed.
this is the best way for us to learn is through that trial and error. I love when I make mistakes in this game. Sometimes I in the moment am very frustrated, But
Yeah.
looking back, I know that those mistakes are going to help me in future games, in future opportunities that might help me at
Yeah.
this League Cup this Saturday. That might help me if and when I play my first regional and or IC or qualify for Worlds in a wild time of future. Like I know that these experiences will help me be better going forward.
Mhm.
And you know, it it just I don't know. It's a wonderful thing to see that it feels attainable and feels learnable and feels in like the entry into it feels really great. I just love that.
It does. I have to agree that I think the barrier to entry is at a great point where the game as a whole is, and I'll say I have like a slight bias to this thought process as I've come from a long years of TCG playing, but like I feel like the game as a whole is easy to pick up. It has what do I call it? Like less stressors throughout the game to learn if you're a new player. Magic has so much going on that uh requires you to learn and like have this new stuff, new thought processes and stuff like that to kind of figure out, and a lot to pay attention to as well when you're learning Magic for the first time, because you're, not only are you focusing on all the cards you're playing and all the cards your opponent's playing, but you have to pay attention to those cards on your turn as well. So like you don't have that, I don't want to say downtime, but like you don't have that, let me figure out what I'm going to do on my next turn in response to the things you're doing on, like the your opponent did on their turn. In Magic, it's let me respond to the things you're doing on my turn and then respond on my turn with the things you did on your turn, and let me respond, like there's no downtime. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a lot of it's a lot going on. So I think it's harder to learn all of those aspects and get that thought process down without like stressing out about stuff as a new player. Whereas I feel like with Pokemon, there's it's a lot of sequencing. It's a different stressor, and I think it's easier for new players to wrap their brain around and figure out. But I do think that the depth is still there to be able to play well at a high level and pilot things correctly, similar to any other TCG.
Yeah.
I think that Pokemon's in a great place. I think that as somebody who just got into it, it felt really easy to get into and like start to sort out. But then as I've played it more, I'm like, oh, like great. There's like a level of depth here as well to figure out how to play stuff and what have you. It just feels different than the years of Magic that I've played. Not
Totally.
better or worse. It's
And
just a different mental tax.
I feel like the volume of decks as well that are competitively viable. Rogue decks can exist where it
Yeah.
feels it feels like there isn't much gating rogue decks from having good matchups.
Mhm.
Now, those rogue decks may have higher consistency issues in comparison to the top meta decks, but you still have a decent matchup spread to where it's not unrealistic for you to play an off meta deck. And I think that
Yeah.
that's a very good place to be where and the meta decks are is like 10 total decks and some of them have the same engines built into them, but they're different. They function and play very differently. They just use similar engines. And I love that. And I think that allows you to sometimes pick the flavor of the month if you want, or find a find a strategy or style that you like to play, and
Mhm.
you can choose your flavor. You choose your starter, very much like Pokemon.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It feels a lot. I think mm, Pokemon right now, and part of the reason why I've really enjoyed getting into it is it distinctly reminds me of the time when I got into Magic,
Yeah.
and the strength level of so much, like the variety of deck lists that all had a similar strength level, that all felt good to play, all felt good to play against, but were wildly different in what they were trying to do. I mean, like I know I've said to you before, like I got into Magic during Standard during Zendikar block, which had um just a ton of like popular decks.
Yeah.
It was insane. It was also like one of the most expensive standards in Magic history,
Yeah.
probably for a reason. But like there was a huge variety of decks to be playing against at any given time. I was like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Is this what Magic's all about? Like this is so much fun. Look
Well,
at all the like that guy's playing that, and that guy's playing that, and I'm playing this, and this guy's playing this, and this is so cool. I get to play like all these different things, and they're all really good. And then that standard rotated out, and Magic was never quite that fun again. And now I get into Pokemon, and I'm like, bro, all these decks are dope. Like
yeah.
I could play against Miraidon, I could play against Genesect Mew, Lucario, like 9 different flavors of Lost Box. Did I say Miraidon already? Chen
Yeah.
Pao, like yeah,
Entei, Valiant,
yeah, Entei Valiant,
Charizard to to Inteleon Urshifu to like
Snorlax, like
yeah, and there's and like that isn't even getting into a lot of these rogue decks that
yeah.
are
Then you get
decent.
off the beaten path into Rogue decks, and there's another list twice as long.
Yeah. I think that that's a beautiful part of it. And also that you mentioned something about the price point. This is a part of the growing up aspect that I think is really, really
Huge.
good. That if you decided to get into Pokemon and go into it and you found a deck that you liked, you likely can build that deck for under $50 and
Hmm.
it'd be like super competitively viable. Now, you have the ability as a grown up, if you have extra money to spend,
Grown up money.
you have grown up money and that extra income to where you can spend a little bit more and get cooler cards that look cooler, that give you that dopamine hit when you see them and when you play them. That is really great. So
Hmm.
as that growing up aspect, as a kid with his piggy bank and his monthly allowance, they can get into Pokemon and have a deck that can compete very quickly. Or if you're an adult that has to have a piggy bank, same concept. You can get into the game and not break your bank. Where I think stuff like Magic and even Yu-Gi-Oh and other card games, Lorcana is also running into that issue of just that cards are reaching this value uh, that is difficult to that it's difficult for people to actually be able to play and play at a high level. Hi Chandler, we got a Chan man in the chat.
I'm gonna try. Pikachu's the best Pokemon.
He kind of is, but it's like he's in that say
It's
okay.
not
So
even. It's not even kind of. It's like it's a easy
segue.
win.
I feel like the Pokemon Company has done has overplayed the Pikachu slash Charizard thing. Uh, oh yeah, One Piece card prices are insane. Um,
Oh really?
yeah. Essentially, Pikachu and Charizard are just like they are so catered to by
I mean,
Pokemon
they
in
are
general,
they are Pokemon.
but they
Like,
are yeah, and they are the poster children as
mm,
much as as they and they do a great job of it. So I it's hard to argue with Chandler's statement that they do get coddled too. Yeah, and again, I back to the point of the price points. I think that it is a great place to be. They're understanding where they're putting out these battle decks, the level 3 battle decks, the Palkia, the Mew, the new Miraidon Regieleki one. Those are all decent enough decks to for somebody like that can beat a meta deck. It's
hmm.
not Gyarados is sick, Alex, I agree. It's it's like they're not as consistent because they still are missing some of the pieces, but those pieces that they need are like cards that you can easily they're bulk commons. They're bulk
Hmm.
cards. Like boss's orders, you can have a $35 boss's orders, or you can have a 10-cent boss's orders and make your deck much better. Same thing with Professor's Research. Same thing with an Iono. An Iono on the cheap end is like $3 or $4. That's for a common non-reverse hollow. But then you can
Yeah.
also have a $90 Iono, and it's like, but you're like that's going to be one of the most expensive cards in your decks at $4, and some decks might run 2 to 4 of them. That's insane. Where I think some decks in Pokemon cost the same as one staple in other card games.
Oh, without question.
And that's a staple. That's like a card that you need 4 of in a
I
Magic the Gathering deck.
you
Wild
you can
concept.
literally build an entire Pokemon deck for the cost of a land in Magic the Gathering.
Yeah.
That's absurd.
I think I also love the when you purchase a battle deck or any product, you get to put it into the live PTCGL, Pokemon Trading Card Game Live, and then
Hmm.
you have that as a physical and a digital product.
That's
So
something I don't understand why every TCG is not implemented.
yeah, it feels like your dollar goes
Sorry,
farther.
that was a lie. I 100% know why they haven't implemented that for every TCG,
Yeah.
but poo-poo on them for doing so, because it's literally a money grab,
Yep. It's
and
cool.
that's depressing that it's a money grab from companies that make the amount of money that
Yeah.
Magic, like
And
the
it, and
amount of money
it's
that
hard.
Magic
It's
the
hard
Gathering has
because it's
brought in.
business, man.
It
Businesses. It is. They can do whatever they want. It
it
sometimes
is.
I
I
hate.
mean,
I despise those money grabs, but it is business, man.
I think just as a whole, Magic still owned by Wizards of the Coast.
I believe so.
Wizards is now owned by Hasbro. Did I get that?
I have
That
no idea.
that Oh, did you miss out on all of that? I'm pretty sure it's Magic is still owned by Wizards of the Coast, but Wizards of the Coast was bought out by Hasbro in the last like 2 years. And
Got it.
since then, they have gone even further downhill down the rabbit hole of like, hey, we're gonna just reprint this box of cards, and
Well,
there's
they're
only like
milking products. They're
they're
they're putting
they're
in these
milking it
Doctor
to the
Who to
nth
Jurassic
degree.
Park to everything, which is
I know I own
giving
Lord of the Rings cards. Come on.
yeah to make Lord of the Rings is a huge one where they're providing a service and something that people are excited about, which is
Yeah,
great. But it is also created this wild demand and taxation on
hmm,
players, on people's pockets,
yeah,
and they sometimes they're just milking them dry, and get again, that's business, and businesses need to make money, and they need to find ways to sell more cards and put more product out there, which, you know what, hats off to them for doing so and finding the right ways. But I think the that is growing up too far and losing sight of allowing the game to be accessible to
100%.
all, and working on finding the best ways to make it so. And I do think Pokemon has reached a good place and has done that, where there is both avenues of, do you want to play the game for as cheap as possible? Awesome, you can do so. Do you
Yeah.
want to kit out your deck and bling it out and make it look super sweet and spend more money than you needed to? Absolutely. It's your choice at that point. Instead of the demand in other
I'm
ones where if you want to be competitively viable, it's a lot more pay to win than it is
uh, I'm
everybody has a
curious.
has a chance.
Does Magic just print less per card? Is that part of the
I don't think it's as much on them as well. I think it's a good part on the consumer. So this isn't necessarily to like it's not all on the
No.
it is not all on the companies for doing so. It is also on the consumers and the businesses that
Is it
sell the
just like
product by putting price tags that become unreasonable, and then cards live at that price.
I was
and
gonna say,
people
is it
pay
just
at
a
that price.
precedence set at this point? Like people expect like a playable chonker to be $60, so therefore people price for that like 50 to $60, and then it stays around that level because people are willing to pay it.
Yep.
Or like, because I feel like if I guess the question mark I have is let's take a Chen Pao, just
Yep.
like random card example. Like obviously if I go list Chen Pao on eBay right now for $50, I'm not gonna get it.
No.
Like basic Chen Pao.
Nope.
But I could do the same with card X from Magic the Gathering and get it all day. If they're being printed in equal percent quantities to the rest of their set, uh, like outside of the Magic player base being greater than Pokemon, like where is that where is that value being attributed from? I guess like is it
I think
because
it's
the
multifaceted at that point.
packs are more expensive? Is it like it's just an interesting like economics question more than anything.
Packs
Uh,
to pull rates to playability to the artist on the card to many different avenues. Like the cool like people in every TCG have come to love specific artists. So
mhm,
and then there's a higher demand if that artist is much more popular and then they did this art, oh they did this illustration rare or this special illustration rare which are lower pull rates. And
mhm,
depending on the sets themselves, those also offer um you know well, we have Paldean Fates coming up, which is a huge set that has a couple really insane cards like the new special illustration rare Iono to the Charizards that are going to bring in a really high price point. Charizard just being a Charizard, that's just always going to do
I,
that. But Iono being playable and
I'm so on board with that though.
a likable character, it's one of the most like characters
Yeah.
in the Pokemon from what I understand. And like it's playable, it's likable, and then it's also rare. It's very like it is very uncommon to pull said card, which they either have lower amounts. Hi Zach, hello Zach. Uh, where
Yeah,
they
camera just
have
randomly died.
where they just yeah. So it all depends on that, and so now you have so many facets that will bring that price of that card up, and also will increase the value of a lot of the other cards, but also might decrease the value because people are going to be chasing that set. So there's going to be a lot more pulls. People are going to pull. They're going to crack more packs of that set to
Mhm.
chase those cards. So it turns into this kind of crazy concept of how much actually stays sealed and how much does Pokemon or any company produce of that set. Because if they know that that set is going to continue to sell and sell more, they'll do a second printing. They'll do a third printing. They'll do a fifth printing. They'll do a 10th printing, knowing that it's continuing to bring them money, and it is putting these amazing products that their consumers want into their hands. Getting more of those Ionos into the world, the Mews into the world, and the Charizards that are going to be huge hits from this set. It's going to be it's going to give that dopamine hit to the consumer because they're going to be stoked about it when they rip a special illustration rare Mew or Iono or Charizard. That's going to
Yeah.
be like, I can either keep this, I could sell this, I could do whatever I want with this, and that makes the consumer happy. And I think so much in this game and in what I think Pokemon has done well is they're understanding that to a decent level. Now they will never be able to fully control it, and they're always going to have to make business decisions that sometimes uh, feel scummy in a way, but that is business. That's
Yeah.
just how it works. And at the end of the day, I have felt very good about what I've seen from Pokemon and them listening and understanding and their growth, where they're not only trying to grow things uh, here in the states, but they're working actively on their their market in Asia and Japan and China and other places, and they also have a great impact where there are tournaments being run in South America and all over Europe and in many different places that I think offer uh, that they understand the global aspect of it. So keeping things
Hmm.
to a level to where it is accessible for all is spot on and a really cool.
Yeah, I have to agree with all the above.
Awesome. Well, Pokemon has definitely grown up, and I think it is in a great place. And I think other companies and games could potentially learn from it. But I think that we don't have to necessarily grow up to that term because we can enjoy this game for whatever we want it to, and that is why we're all in this and why we love the positivity of what we get to see out of this and that community that it has built. So, and continuing to talk about community, we are currently in the developments of kind of maybe making a new direction for Discord and everything like that. But make sure you join the pod. So if you're watching this after the fact, join the pod. It'll be a great place. You'll see all this new stuff that we might be coming up with. And Saturday evening, there will be a Saturday Night Pokemon, which is a free place to play through Trading Card Game Live. And it is, again, free entry, and you have a chance to win some code cards, which will help you build your decks and test out different archetypes and get you to a place where we're able to learn more about the game. And we have a lot of great players that
Did we mention
are.
it's free?
It is free, so free.
Just
Uh,
keep bringing it on.
that it is free, and
Hey, it's free, guys.
I am offering additional code cards to different events. I am also offering physical cards to some of the winners, and maybe we'll do more giveaways when it comes down to that stuff. But definitely join the Discord. It's in the description down below, and we are looking to expand and work with more people in the community as we move forward. So, I think that puts us to a great spot. Do you have anything else you want to add? Maybe we can, yeah, I
Trying
don't
to
know.
think.
How do I do this free thing? Alex, join the
Let's see.
Discord.
Join the Discord. I'm just trying to think through all the stuff that we've been working on because I feel like there's so much that's been going on. It's like, am I forgetting something that we should talk about? But
I think
I
you're
think you
pretty
covered
good.
it. I mean, I think the big one is like, stay tuned. We're hoping to get a bunch of stuff going on soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh, that should be good. Like I
Really
don't know what
good.
you call it. Should be really good. Hopefully, um, in a multitude of ways to really build up the community. And go tell your friends if your friends are into Pokemon. If they're
Yeah,
not
please,
yet
please,
into
please.
Pokemon, but like if you have people you know that could be interested, get them in
Also,
here.
also, if they like disc golf, that's a great place to be as well.
Hmm.
So we have, and we in Rocket League and all these games. So it's like we just want the community to grow, and if people are want to get interested in Pokemon, they have a great resource and a lot of people who are willing to help and give ideas in helping that. And then just in so many ways, we want to have a community that supports each other, that builds each other upward, that is this awesome hype place for everyone to feel like they have a place and to feel like they can be heard and seen and be who they are. Essentially, is what we want from anything that we're involved in. Anything that Pokeokley does, anything that Rainbowsmaug does, anything that the future projects that we have, it is all about inclusivity and making people feel comfortable and welcome. We want to spread
Uh,
love as much as possible.
go follow me on YouTube. There's your last plug.
Yeah,
Professor Smog.
love
We're
it.
getting there. We're getting there.
Heck yeah.
Little by little. I put the time in to make the channel yesterday, so
Get you up there. And we're gonna be a lot more on the horizons, which hopefully we'll be able to have a bigger discussion about that here in the future. So everybody enjoy the rest of your week. Hopefully you're playing some Pokemon and crushing it and climbing the ladder and and you learn a lot. But come, hang, be a part of the community, and thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for being here. We love you tons, and we will talk to you very, very soon. What's up, Yogurt?
Yogurt out.